The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote about what he called the real source of harm. And he concluded that it isn't the person who takes a swipe at you who harms you. The harm comes from your beliefs about what the event means. And while this may be difficult to accept, pain, the physical sensation, the unpleasant physical sensation of pain, isn't in itself good or bad. It just is. But how you label it has the capacity to increase the pain or to decrease it. And in mindfulness, there's an attitude of non-judgement, and that can really help you with reducing persistent pain. Now, you might reasonably be thinking, how can I be non-judging? Don't I make judgments all the time? Well, you do. And in a way, non-judgment's a misnomer, because mindfulness doesn't say stop making judgments. It encourages you to notice those judgments, but not be led by habitual reactions to them. Because sometimes our habitual trigger reactions can be contributing to increasing pain. And it's not that judgments themselves are good or bad. They're only thoughts. And thoughts can be misleading. The human brain is great at taking fragments of information and building a complete picture, which is actually quite inaccurate. And that can leave you with increased pain, increased tension, and more stress. And mindfulness meditation has been shown to reduce pain in both clinical and experimental settings. There are a number of ways you might bring the attitude of non-judgment to your experience of pain. What goes through your mind when you're in pain? Because we do tend to label pain as bad. But in truth, it's a protection mechanism, so it's actually therefore good. Its job is to alert you to danger and protect you from harm. Now, this doesn't mean you have to like it. The question is, if you think of your pain as bad, does that make your recovery more or less likely? When we get into the habit of noticing judgments, it tends to involve us in slowing down. And that gives you more time to decide what steps you want to take, rather than reacting habitually. And when you stop reacting, it's easier for you to think more clearly about what is most likely to help you right here and now. When we stop jumping to good and bad judgments, we also make a lot more space for just not knowing. Because a common outcome of the practice of non-judgment is actually you do find yourself not knowing what to do when you stop the habitual reaction. And this is a good thing. It can be scary because it contradicts our natural tendency to feel like we've got to have everything figured out. But sometimes you really do have to stop what you normally do if you're going to make space for any new insights and for new options. If what you're living with and dealing with is musculoskeletal pain, a lot of that's actually non-specific. It means there isn't always an identifiable cause. And non-judgement really helps you take the pressure off yourself. Because you haven't failed or missed something just because there isn't necessarily a clear, easy diagnostic label for what you're experiencing. Not judging yourself also makes it that much easier to deal with the reality that even when two people have the same diagnosis, they may not have the same experience. And they also may not have the same response to the same treatment. So, it's often really not helpful to be comparing your experience with others or to assume that you should be feeling a particular way just because someone else did. Making small changes consistently can be one of the best ways to get started reducing pain. You might think that you have to wait till your pain eases before you can make any changes, but actually, counterintuitively, often only the act of making changes anyway, despite the pain, leads to a reduction in symptoms. So here are 5 ways you might use non-judgement to reduce pain. Option 1 is to get to know how you talk to yourself. Strange to relate, but many of our habitual reactions and our internal conversations are so habitual, we don't even really know we're having them. And to understand how you talk to yourself about your pain, what you believe about it, try making some notes about it. Handwriting is a really good idea because it slows the brain processing down, and that makes it a lot easier for you to get to know what you're thinking. Option 2 is to really start focusing in on getting a sense of how your self-talk shows up in your body. And getting out of where we spend most of our lives, which is in our heads, and checking in with what your body's saying. Just get into the habit of noticing any areas of tightness or holding. If you notice your pain increasing, what happens to your breathing? Are you holding yourself tight or rigid in any way? And when you do notice any areas of holding or tightness, see if you can breathe into them. See what happens if you just acknowledge the area. Say that you notice there's tightness in your back or your shoulders, and reassure yourself that it's okay to let the tightness go. It's okay to let it be. A third option is to get familiar with using what we call the stop practice, S-T-O-P. Now this is a short guided meditation that encourages you to meet any difficulties, any tensions really, by S, stopping, T, taking a breath, O, observing, and only then P, proceeding. Or if you don't know how to proceed, just allowing that moment of stopping the habitual just to process until you do know how to proceed. And there's a guided version of that practice on my website. Option 4, if and when you find yourself stuck in one of those negative loops, is to try engaging the left and right hand sides of your brain. Now, this needn't be complicated. The simple act of going for a walk, moving the left, then the right foot, can do the job. If you're not in a position to go for a walk, take an object and pass it across the midline of your body from left hand to right hand. It just helps to engage and integrate the different sides of your brain. And again, it can get us just out of that slightly stuck sense of trying to be too rational, too process driven, and just engage more the creative side. And it seems to have a capacity to reduce some anxiety and to reduce stress. And that's going to have a knock on to your body's capacity to heal and recover. When you start to look at this situation in more depth, what some people find is that certain strong emotions or stressful situations make their pain worse. And if this is you, try to remember the 90-second rule. The physiological component of any emotion lasts about 90 seconds in your body. It's your ruminating mind and your negative judgments that keep the chemicals of that physiological reaction in circulation. So when you find yourself doing or thinking something that you suspect might make your pain worse, can you wait 90 seconds? See if you can be an observer of what you're thinking and feeling, but not react to it. Because if you can do that, actually you'll find that any stressors rise and fall and pass on much more quickly. None of this is a magic bullet for pain. There is no quick fix for persistent pain. But patience and understanding of your own experience without judging it as good or bad can help you find the most productive solutions for you.